Hey, everybody, welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. I'm your host, Val Medved, with John Gray of Hangar Z podcast fame, and today we're joined by Justin in a two-part podcast with an experienced airframe and power plant mechanic currently working with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Justin brings a wealth of knowledge from his diverse career, including in the U.S. Air Force, where he gained his foundational experience with working on military aircraft, commercial aviation, where he worked on a range of fixed-wing aircraft, overall helicopter maintenance, honed and specialized on maintenance on the A-Stars, AS-350, H-125s, and the H-145 platforms. SpaceX contributed to cutting-edge propulsion systems and law enforcement aviation, is where he currently is applying his skills with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Justin's expertise promises to give us a fascinating look into the world of vertical lift maintenance and the critical role of law enforcement operations. If you like this episode or any other past episodes, hit like or subscribe or whatever platform that you're listening to, as this will keep us looking for great guests like the ones we've highlighted so far. I'm Val Medved. This is Vertical MRO. Let's get this started. Special thanks to our sponsors for this podcast, Bell and Safe Structure Designs.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.
All right, everyone, you're ready to contact. You're cleared to the Bravo.
The Vertical MRO Podcast explores the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul with your host, Val Medved.
Now, line altimeter 3029, approved as requested.
The podcast features helicopter technicians, mechanics, engineers, and MRO experts who share invaluable industry insight, knowledge, and stories that will inspire current and aspiring industry maintainers.
All right, welcome back to VMRO, Vertical MRO. Yours truly, Val Medved, with my great co-host and entrepreneur galore, Mr. John Gray. What's cracking, brother?
What's going on, sir? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. How's the West Coast treating you?
Excellent. Yeah, it's I see you've got your Winnipeg High School fall or football league sweatshirt on, and it's signaling fall. And for me, I know Justin isn't falling in the same category, but for where I'm at in the mountains of Southern California, it's starting to get cool. We had temperatures in the 40s last two nights.
Oh, at elevation.
And yeah, so it feels good. Whereas our guest probably isn't getting that kind of temperature really in Southern California.
We're starting to finally get down to the low 90s where we're at. So it's like the evenings have been nice, dropping into the 60s finally. Whereas I don't know, a couple weeks ago, it's still in the 90s around like 9, 10 o'clock p.m. So
we had some northern Louisiana love up here this past week. This last 3 days, 4 days, we are in and around, I'm going to say around 90s. Like I'm going to convert this because I'm the Canadian who can convert. So we're in the 90s, and with the humidity, we were cracking 105, which is nuts.
That's rough.
Which is nuts.
Miserable.
Like everything sticks to each other. Everything sticks to
when I
each
was
other.
stationed in Florida, I was not a fan of the humidity. I'm glad to be more moderate climate. Yeah.
John and I were just down in Houston not long ago at that AppsCon there, and that's the 4 H's, right? Houston, hurricanes, heat, and what was the other one? Humidity. That's what it was.
Humidity, yeah. It was horrible. I was out there too, and I did not miss the humidity at all. It was horrible.
All right.
Yeah, in fact, that's where Justin and I talked for, 35, 40 minutes at the CNC party. And had a good time talking. We've met before, but it was good to hang out with you and chat with you there, and stoked to have you back on here to talk.
Absolutely.
This is out of my wheelhouse a bit, but this is yours. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
In case anybody didn't figure it out by now, our next guest is Justin Krumlauf. Hey,
how's it going, guys?
Welcome to the show, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're a young man in demand right now, just especially after just before we got onto the show here. He's a young father and soon to be yet father again here. So congratulations to you, buddy. You got a big couple of, I guess. And how far along is she?
She's 36 weeks and 2 days, so she's almost there. Yeah.
Any minute.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting.
And you guys know what it is?
Yeah, it's a boy. Yeah,
we're
excited for a boy. No, Val. That'll be what we call him, but his government name will be Joshua Dean.
I appreciate that. Thanks for kind of plugging that in, buddy. I appreciate you for that. Well, welcome to Vertical MRO, buddy. It's been I know John John kind of arranged us out and teed us up, so I thank you for doing that there, Johnny. As always, man, you bring on wickedly good guests. I put on my Boston on for that one. Wickedly good guests over there.
Yeah, so, I feel like it's not very often. Well, more often in aviation, but elsewhere, it's not very often you come across somebody who's super passionate and knowledgeable about the profession that they're in. And talking to Justin, that's what comes across. Your passion for the industry is very evident in the conversations we had, and I love that.
Nice.
So that's kind of what we'd like to do, is just talk to people that are passionate about this profession and this industry, and it's infectious.
Yeah, boy. Yep. You said it. So just to kind of give before we get into this stuff here, guys, and before we kind of tee off the show and get right to work, what's the drink in hand? Justin, what do you got in your hand, Papa?
So I don't drink alcohol anymore. It's just a personal choice, but I'm drinking some sparkly cherry water, which I used to not be a fan of, but now I enjoy it. So
okay, Johnny.
I used to hate that stuff too, and I've said this a lot. But I used to think it tasted like TV static, if that's a thing. Like that
TV static. If there was like fruit in the room, is what we always described it as. Yeah.
Let's just for a second analyze that statement. It tasted like TV static.
Anybody who's drinking it can totally understand and relate.
John, you and I are both old enough that we can probably defer back to the days when recognized the TVs were as tubes.
Yeah.
So
I remember those days too.
Okay.
I was just on the tail end of it. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, for me as a kid, when the cable went out, you'd got the TV static. That's all you had. Now I think you just get a no signal thing. There's no static there at all.
I got the cuff in the back of the head to go fix the antenna.
Oh yeah.
Go to the back of the TV. Hold it this way. No, hold this way. And then you got tin foil, and then you got slapped at, and you got thrown. It was.
Well, at least in Canada with all the snow you get, it wasn't like, hey, go climb and dig the snow off the satellite dish or something.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. We usually sprayed the satellites with Pam.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Nice, Johnny. What are you drinking, buddy?
Well, it's my kind of go-to vodka soda in my CNC Yeti cup. It's all stickered up, so that's what I'm going with. How about you?
I am rocking not a whiskey today, which is going to be shocking to a lot of our listeners because they're saying, you should work for Gretzky whiskey. I said, well, it's just good stuff. I drink it. Today I'm going with a little bit of Land Shark. So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers, boys.
Cheers. Here's to a great guest coming on board with us.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Let's get to work here. Let's shoot this right out of the hole here. Justin, first and foremost, let's kind of go through where you are and what was your kind of thought process in becoming an airframe and power plant mechanic. What made you say, aha, this is the good for me?
So originally started, my dad served as an Air Force reservist for most of my life over here at March Air Force Base in Southern California. So I kind of grew up with an exposure to aircraft at a young age, always going to air shows and going with him to work and seeing the C-17s, the 141s, the 135s. He also worked full-time in the FAA, so I always got to be around that side of it too.
You got tainted young.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was very handy. So I grew up, being mechanical around the house, working on cars, got into like mountain bikes, boats. And then I always wanted to join the Air Force. Originally I wanted to be a pilot, but with education lacking, I decided to go unenlisted. And one thing my dad always told me that stuck with me is if you're going to go in the military, make sure you go in for a job that transfers to the civilian world. And
good piece of advice.
Of course, aircraft maintenance was my first choice because I knew I could get my A&P through the military, and if I ever did want to get out, that would transfer. So went in as a AC-130 mechanic on the gunships, crew chief.
Nice, like the Big Berthas.
Oh yeah, so that was a sweet gig. Did that for about 4.5 years active duty. Decided I wanted to try something else, so I got out. With my A&P and my FCC license, initially took a position at SpaceX as a propulsion technician, as like a stepping stone job because it wasn't A&P required, but it did help me get the job. So I worked there for just short of a year, and then I applied at both San Bernardino Sheriff's Office and Riverside Sheriff's Office and got the gig at Riverside, which was pretty lucky of me because I had no rotorcraft experience on my resume, really, other than helping out with the 160th in Afghanistan on the Chinooks. But
I mean, that's kind of a
real
big deal.
gamble with me. Yeah, it was pretty fun. But yeah, they took a gamble with me, and so far it's paid off. So
no doubt. Well, it's listen, first and foremost, me being on the north side of the 49th parallel, thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure.
We're kind of like your baby brother up here in Canada, but we do appreciate being protected by guys like yourself. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
That's a kick-ass start, dude.
Yeah.
The especially like you're working on Chinooks in the middle, and you said it was during, when did you serve? Sorry.
I went in 2015, had a deployment, winter of 2016, 2017, and then summer of 2018, both to Afghanistan.
Well, sir, wow, good, dude. I wouldn't have pegged you that old. Look at you.
I just turned 31, so I'm still young.
You got the fountain of youth or whatever you're drinking out there. It's young father that's keeping you looking.
Come off the alcohol, it gains you about 10 years on.
You hear that, John? We're doomed. We're doomed.
I know we had that conversation at AppsCon. He was like, "Why aren't you drinking?" I'm like, man, it's just personal choice, but I have no regrets. No regrets.
Yeah.
It's hard when you go to an event like that and everybody's drinking, and you want to, but I'm glad I kind of steered away from it and held my ground there, especially on a trip like that. Yeah,
lots of discipline, my friend. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
We're talking about the fountain of youth, and I guarantee it's not the water of Southern California. That's not the fountain of youth.
It's not. We're coming up on Flint, Michigan water here.
Oh man, there's a reference. Oh man. Okay.
No,
well, you know what?
bad,
That's I can say that up in Canada that we can. I know in any major city in Canada, I think I can go anywhere and drink right from the tap. I just don't know what that world is like. Wow.
Yeah, people do here, but it's a risk. Yeah, it's either filtered or bottled around these parts.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember. I'm just jumping way off a topic here. I remember one time when I was vacationing with the family down in Mexico, we were on one of those little water taxis, and we were in Cabo, so we're going to see Los Arcos, and we're kind of floating over there. And this one kid, he's green and ready to hurl at any second. I'm like, "You all right, buddy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I just had a lot of water to drink." I'm like, "Mexican tap water?" He's like, "Yeah, buddy said it's okay." He's like, "He's not your buddy, man. He set you up." Like that's a beat down. Next time you see that dude, you don't drink that water.
He's about to have a double dragon experience for sure.
Oh, the screaming eagle, right? The screaming eagle.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so wow. Okay, so you jumped on board there. You're with Riverside County Sheriff's Department. So you made the move from fixed wing to rotor.
It's a big jump.
I know we have a lot more moving parts of there. What did you think was kind of going to be some of your biggest challenges outside of learning the rotor dynamic versus the fixed float?
So coming from C-130s, turboprop, it kind of gives me an upper hand as somebody who would come from, say, like turbine or jet, just because you kind of do have the same component tree. Gearbox, reduction gearbox, all that kind of stuff. It's just that, flight controls are a little different, airframe's a little different, but once you have a grasp on the mechanical makeup of an aircraft, you can kind of transfer that here and there. It just takes a little OJT on the job training to kind of carry that from frame to frame. So kind of helped me out being on C-130s, getting into rotorcraft. But it was a pretty good jump. Came not super easy. It was challenging, learning something new, but I enjoyed it, and I still do.
What was, in your mind, the most challenging part of working on the C-130s?
Man, so we worked on, the model I worked on was called the AC-130U model, which is basically an H model C-130 that was converted to a gunship. And there's 3 different models. There's a whiskey model, U model, and now they have all J models. So the most complicated part working on C-130s was just the age and the fact that they had been modded so many times that all the mods kind of clashed together and didn't like to work together. So when you have one problem, you're kind of chasing 7 at the same time, because still a really awesome aircraft. Super privileged to have worked on those. Awesome mission. It was a lot of fun. I miss living on base and hearing, the 105 cannon going off at night on the range and the 25 mil. It was like, some people like living next to the freeway or hearing the trains going in the distance. That was my white noise.
See, John, there is some part of the Americans, they understand the metric points.
If you talk about ammunition, we might be.
That's right. That's all of a sudden it becomes crystal clear. I talk centimeters and millimeters. Like, how much snow fell? Well, it fell 12 centimeters. How much is that in inches?
Well, we start talking Celsius, I get a little lost too. So
yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah. Well, I live in a spot where minus 40 is minus 40. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit and C.
You're right.
Oh yeah. Equalizes.
Es no bueno.
started to dig on the C-130, but I'm super fascinated with that platform.
Absolutely.
And it's been in a ton of movies, and that's the only place I guess I've seen it at an air show in a static display. But being that you were a crew chief, what was it like operating in that C-130?
Thank you to our sponsors, Safe Structure Designs. Safe Structure Designs specializes in custom aircraft maintenance stands and hangar equipment, boosting hangar efficiency by 50% and enhancing technician safety. With over 20 years of experience alongside real-world aircraft technicians, SAFE develops industry-leading ergonomic safety solutions. Why not take advantage of SAFE's free custom design process for your safety and efficiency needs and let them create your ideal solution? Visit www.safe-2.com to learn more.
Yeah, it was really cool, especially overseas. I mean, when you're home station, it's all about training, right? So you're trying to hit the metric, keep the gunners trained, the pilots trained. You have electronic warfare officers, sensor operators, which is like a TFO, coming from the rotorcraft side. I mean, they have anywhere from like 12 to 21 people on board operating in unison at one time. So just keeping them trained. And then when you go overseas, obviously it's, full mission, you're overhead overwatch for our ground troops, NATO forces, UN forces, just keeping them safe, keeping them, giving them cover against enemy fire, which, it definitely gives you,
sure,
meaning in your job. You think, aircraft maintenance, you're just, you think you're kicking tires, but downrange on the AC-130s, it's like, all right, I'm actually making a difference when they come back and they Winchester for their no ammo. So you're reloading them, making sure you're getting all the little fixes and send them back up to make sure that everybody's protected. So it's a really cool mission.
You literally are a big brother flying.
Yeah.
Good old big old fatty 130.
Yeah.
You talk about the systems and kind of the merging of these older and newer systems and how they don't like to talk and they don't like to work together sometimes. It reminds me of, not so much anymore, but maybe 5 to 10 years ago, all the mission equipment we had on law enforcement aircraft didn't like to talk to each other or work in unison. Yeah. And when you're trying to troubleshoot that stuff, it was kind of like, okay, well, where do we start? And you'd call tech support for whatever the company is, and they'd be pointing fingers at each other. Oh, yeah. Has that come into play for you, being where you are now? Having had that experience?
Not so much now. I feel like everything's a little more integrated. We're pretty lucky to have, the guys that I work with are pretty good with the systems that we have on our aircraft. And if there's, something we don't have, we can usually find the answer coming from, shops around us. We're in contact with like SBSO, LA, San Diego. And usually we can find a fix. Hangar 1 down in Palomar has always been a great help for avionics experience. So we haven't had too much where I'm at now. If there's an issue, it's we either, reseat the connector or send it out. So it's been pretty nice.
Yeah.
All these line replaceable units, it's not as much troubleshooting as it is just, okay, change this. Okay, did it work? Cool. Sweet. Move on,
Nice.
I think in a lot of ways you're not giving yourself enough credit though, because even being able to troubleshoot and figure out what component is failing is hard. At least for me as a dumb pilot, I'm like, man, this stuff's not working. I don't really know. Here you go. Try and figure it out. And you guys always do. And I always think it's impressive that not only are you responsible for the mechanical systems and all the aircraft, but also the avionics and all the things that go with that. So I always like to give you guys props on that when I get a chance.
Again, Justin, this coming from a pilot, Justin, you have to take it. You got to take it.
I need it in writing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You tell that to my pilots, man. No, we got a really good set of pilots where we're at too. So we're honestly pretty blessed where we're at. That's one thing I'm very grateful for where I'm at is our mechanics and, flight crew have a really good relationship. Where I've been, in the military, it's a lot more toxic as far as communication and how everybody looks at each other. So it's really cool seeing where I'm at now. Just the relationship there is pretty awesome.
Did you find the transition? There's like when you just mentioned, when you're saying things are toxic as far as communication, did that kind of help you a little bit when you kind of transitioned into this role that you're at now with Riverside County? I should
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah. It definitely helps. Just I mean, it always helps when you enjoy the people you work around, but also the relationship. Our pilots give us a lot of leash when it comes to like, hey, this is what's wrong. They don't have to give us too much detail. We can figure it out. But they also work with us on it pretty well too. So we're like, hey, we can't get a duplicate on what you're saying is wrong. Can we run it up with you real quick and see if it comes back? And they 100 times do all the time. So it's really cool that they're willing to help us in the troubleshooting process. And they're also understanding like, hey, this aircraft's got to come down. Like, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
They don't give us too much gripe about it either.
Yeah, I know, John. We've touched this on a couple of episodes now when it comes to the communication being one of the key pillars for success for any successful mission, whether it's military or whether it's law enforcement or even civilian and or medevac. Good for you for kind of like, well, I guess you scraped the bottom of the barrel when it came to the non-communication side of the military, and then walking into the law enforcement side where it's over communicated. That's probably you covered the full spectrum.
Yeah, I think as a whole, aviation as an industry has come a long ways as far as kind of breaking those barriers down and realizing that the mission sets that we do are every part of that is necessary, whether you're on R&D building these components, whether you're an administrator making things happen, or you're on the line as a mechanic or a pilot. Every aspect of that mission is critical. And I think before we had these walls built up, but like, I'm the most important part of this, and without me, it's not going to happen. I think that's changed. So, absolutely. Justin, for you, what you saw in the military versus what you're seeing in the private sector as a civilian, now how do you bring what you're seeing in the civilian side back to the military and start that process there?
So that's something while I was still in, that was something I was trying to do, was to kind of fix that relationship. I like to think I'm pretty charismatic. So if I could get into the ear of the pilots or the crew or whoever's having the issues, that I could kind of like talk them into some sense from a mechanic standpoint, right? Because pilots, mechanics think on two totally separate planes, and having that conversation where you can meet in the middle and understand, it's difficult sometimes. So, and I think that was one of the things in the military. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way was, maintenance was always looked down on. And then when it come to maintenance, okay, now we're looking down on back shop, which is, the avionics engine guys that, working off the line. And so when, a pilot would come out to the aircraft, they're kind of talking down to you like, okay, is my aircraft ready? Well, yeah, it's ready. Okay, well, I'm going to look at everything to make sure because I don't trust you.
Wow.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who've had 3 months of schooling working on these multi-million-dollar aircraft. So I understand it.
Yeah.
But, we've proven ourselves time and time again that we are definitely capable, especially downrange where it, really matters that we can handle it. And even with all that being said and done, and it even came from their own leadership, unfortunately, because they're always trying to pander to the air crew, make sure they're hitting their metrics and they're getting their training. But when it came to us, it was just numbers. And, it really is an old school. It's an old school approach. It was a lot more old school approach. Yeah.
A lot of old school approach there where by degrading you and beating you down, they kind of got up and a little bit on themselves there. It's proven over and over and over again to fail. So good. But now, the optimistic side of you, which by all, things, I'm seeing in front of me, optimistic side of you had to have seen that as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, especially when I was coming in and interviewing for the Riverside County job, that was something like, it was so refreshing to see that relationship that I had never seen before in maintenance,
Right.
So when I first started working there, I was like, man, this is how it should be. Like, I remember in the military, just like, you're basically rolling out the red carpet for these pilots and they're still not happy. And so when I get to Riverside County and the pilots are, gassing their own aircraft and they're pulling them out and all, like, I'm just like, we're not doing
what's
that?
going on here?
What's going on? Are we supposed to like get their aircraft ready? Like, all they have to do is get in and push a button like they're doing. I'm like, man, they wash their own aircraft. Like, this is great.
When they gas their own aircraft, did they ever leave the cap on the driver's on the seat?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that matter. My lawyers advised me to not speak on that.
Under legal advisement. I love it.
I love it. I'm not allowed to speak on that.
It has been forementioned by other people. I'm just asking.
Yeah. Mistakes happen. Pilots aren't perfect too.
Man, it was that and the GPU door on the H125. I was always afraid that that door was going to be unlatched. I didn't latch it properly as a TFO.
Fly open. Yeah.
That's not as much of a big deal as the gas cap, right? You go flying off and the gas cap goes through someone's front windshield. That could be bad.
That could be bad. That could be very, John, that'd be very bad.
Somebody could be rich by the end of the week. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, coincidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So with the improved communication, like I said, there's clearly something you took away from that, and you kind of now adopted it to the point where you walk in, you see now a team that's actually communicative, and you're working on these aircraft there. And it's like, from what I understand, John, I think you and I briefly spoke about it there. You guys are H120. You're an Airbus friendly facility.
Yeah, we have 5 125s with one more on the way, and then we have an H145. And then we're also getting a Pilatus PC-12 here within the next 18 months as well. And then we have one Cessna 182.
Wow. That's a hell of a fleet. The H125 is a good looking helicopter. Don't get me wrong. That 145 is a sexy bird, isn't it?
Yeah. I always think it looks like just a big goldfish when it flies around.
Yes.
It's a good looking aircraft.
Yes. Yeah.
That big finish strom is it's massive. And you don't realize it until you see it in the sky. You're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's a great platform. I love both these aircraft. 145 is a little bit more meticulous to work on, but 125 is just a workhorse, man. It's the Chevy pickup, just works all the time.
That's a compliment. We're talking like late 90s Chevy pickup or the recent
square body all the way.
Square body. Oh, good for you. Nice, great reference. Square body. The old Scottsdales.
Oh yeah, they're great. Mine was actually the Cheyenne C2500 Cheyenne pickup. So
you got some good truck taste here, John. This guy's
I have a Cummins now together. Too, so
you went to Cummins now?
Well, my first truck was actually a Cummins. It was a 12 valve. Now I have a 24 valve. So.
I got you.
Yeah.
Massive difference between the H125 and 145. What would you consider it to be?
It's the 145 just feels like they took everything they learned from the 125 and just made it better.
Steroided it up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like doubled the engines and gave it a huge fuselage. And I mean, it's a lot of it is very much the same. It's just extra, so it's really cool. The one thing that's harder about it is because of how big the fuselage section is, everything's more crammed. So it's when you got to fix something, you got to take a lot of stuff apart to get to where you need to. So, but I mean, that comes with craft, I've worked on a lot harder stuff than that. So if I just got to pull some interior panels, it's not too bad.
What's that ESPN guy, Scott Van Vliet, down there on ESPN on SportsCenter? He came up with a phrase like literally for this is my OCD and ADHD kicking in here. He said this about 20 years ago where he goes, some is good, more is better. Like that was it. That was sticking with that.
I like that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
That's right. That's right. Well, I can ask both of you guys this question because you're both operating on that side of the world. Or John, when you used to fly, are you seeing more and more kind of jumping into the twin operated engine section of the 145s? And I think even the 135s have the twins on it, don't they?
Yeah.
Are you seeing more and more law enforcement, especially? I know in the contracted world up here, when it comes to SARs, they are looking more and more at the twin powered power plants. Is that the movement still in the US?
Yeah, my hot take on that is absolutely yes. You're seeing a lot of agencies want that extra ability for the search and rescue mission, firefighting mission in Southern California. It brings a lot of added capability. So I think you are seeing a lot of that. Which I think is great anytime, especially in the mountainous terrain of Southern California.
Sure.
And people might laugh when they hear that, but Southern California does have a lot of mountainous terrain. Riverside County is a part of that as well.
Absolutely.
And you're up flying over this unforgiving terrain. If you have an engine failure, there's nowhere you're going to put that thing down. The grade's too steep. So to have a twin engine in that scenario, just that added mindset. I know that the statistics say that the single engine failure is probably not going to happen, but probably isn't what I like. I like the redundancy and that dual
engine is always better. Yeah.
Well, you guys also now in Southern California, you have, like you said, I've been there, I've traveled throughout. I know some of the steep grades. You guys have metropolises bumping up to those steep grade, those hills now. So when you're having to do a medevac or a search for something, you're working with a like a 9-10% grade of a road, and you're now having to kind of navigate a helicopter over top of that. You guys are steady hands on that one. Good job on the pilots department.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, LA County Sheriff's Department, they operate the Super Puma, and they fly in obviously LA County in the Angeles National Forest, and that is some mountainous terrain. And they're putting that Super Puma down on 2-lane roads that are super steep and dirt turnouts and areas that it's shocking to see how good those pilots are. So yeah, I give those guys a lot of props.
Damn, that's a steady hand.
No, it's so there's a couple things I want to touch on. And it's kind of jumping ahead, but we're on the 145s right now. We talked about the avionics in the 145s, the obviously really advanced avionics systems. Can you talk about, from your guys' perspective, the difference in maintaining those systems versus, say, the 125? Is there a difference because the advanced avionics? Bell Training Academy proudly supports Vertical Helicasts. Experience hands-on technical training with dedicated maintenance aircraft to keep your skills sharp and your Bell aircraft operating at peak performance. Register for a technical course by September 30th and get $100 to Bell's gift shop. Visit bell.co/training.
There is a difference. I haven't had too much experience with it yet. I know a couple of our senior mechanics, along with our supervisory staff, have gone to Airbus for the Helionics course. So they're the ones that kind of get to dive into that a little bit more than I have had a chance to. But I know that our pilots and our crew love it. Just having a full glass cockpit and having all the redundancy on the filters and the engines and just all the monitoring systems, the autopilot. It's just, just gives them that second set of hands on the sticks, keeping them safe. So, you watch these guys when they're doing hoist training on the 125 versus the 145. It just looks like the 145 is just suspended perfectly in air. It's just so stable. And it's a true testament to the pilot, but it's also a testament to the avionics systems on that aircraft.
Sure.
You mentioned, we had this briefly earlier on. How's the acceptance of the new technology into the aircraft coming into with the mechanics side of the world?
Man, it's always hard, teaching an old dog new tricks with some of these guys. But obviously I'm younger, so I'm more keen to the technology side of stuff. But when you get in some of these older gentlemen who used to work on Thomas guides and paper TOs and paper work orders, it's just a different experience for them. So it's a lot of me guiding them through the technology as they're also learning. So. But it's I don't think there's resistance to it as much as you would think. It's just learning. The learning curve is the big process, big hurdle that we're all trying to figure out.
Old dog, new tricks is probably the right analogy. Yep.
Yeah.
We just did a recording and had a whole conversation on AI and maintenance and how that's kind of revolutionizing the industry.
Oh yeah.
And a separate kind of offshoot of that conversation, we talked about how mechanics toolboxes used to be just that, a toolbox, and you'd have some paper manuals on top and that, some sign off forms and whatnot. And now you're seeing a lot of the computerization of those workstations. So you have obviously a tool chest, but there's these monitors kind of across the top of these tool chests. Are you seeing that where you are at your agency and regionally?
Not so much yet. We do work off our laptops for all of our guidance and stuff. And we'll print out guidance as needed, just so it's more accessible when we need it. I know, so a lot of places are going more to that like diagnostic feel, the plug and play type stuff. I know with our aircraft, we have the ability to, the 145 specifically, we have the ability to plug in a laptop and do like all the map uploads and do some, engine data or recording and stuff. But even on some of our new 125s, we can do the engine data review. But we don't use it as much as you would think. So we're still kind of stuck in the middle. We haven't fully accessed the full autonomous, digital networking aspect of it yet. But I know when it comes to like when we get the PC-12, that's going to take us another step forward toward the technology aspect. Just that thing's insane.
Yeah.
The amount of technology on it's so cool too.
Yeah. But when you look at the technology that's up and coming, and maybe that's in existence today, what is most exciting for you, in the maintenance world?
Man, it's a bittersweet feeling because I feel like the technology is taking a lot of the guesswork out of being a mechanic. So, like when they came out and did a demo on the PC-12, they were like, the engine data all get sent right to the manufacturer and they'll let you know what you need to do. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Where's my part in that? I don't get to do any troubleshooting or anything like that. So as it gets progressively farther along in the technology aspect of it, I think it's going to further remove, that old timer experience, the tribal knowledge coming down from the older generations of mechanics, which are, always great to have. It's just going to get farther away from that, which I think it's good in the long run because it removes a lot more human error, but at the same time, you're removing experience, So it's bittersweet for me personally.
Your statement of tribal knowledge is something that this podcast has been kind of really circled around. It's the insertion of the technology over now and I think Howie mentioned this on one of my past podcasts, the touch of the aircraft to feel what if it's in proper tune. You can, some of the, like you said, guys with experience just kind of walk up and touch it. Now it's just basically kind of looking and seeing what it spits out on a data keyboard. Or a screen, I should say, not keyboard.
Yeah.
I think that tribal knowledge is more important now than ever as the technology centers come online and kind of tell you what to do. Because you think about GPS, how many times does GPS tell you to go the wrong way? Different technology, but same idea. You still have to have the knowledge set and the ability to look at the data and what it's telling you and be like, no, that's not right. And this is why. Yeah.
And that's something we've kind of experienced too with the 145. Like we had an AC issue at the tail end of July, and we're following the digital mapping of what it was telling us to replace this part didn't work, replace this part didn't work, but it's telling us based off the code that it's giving us for the air what we need to replace. Well, we all knew it was the compressor, but we have to follow the chain, and eventually get to, okay, it was a compressor. Well, now the whole AC system's brand new because we replaced everything along the way.
Oh, little conditioned by going on there.
Yeah. Sorry for the rabbit hole there. I love the technology questions and I love the conversations on AI. I think it's exciting. It's shaping the industry in a lot of ways that nobody really anticipated, and it's going to continue to do that. So I like the conversations and just the opinions of folks like yourself, Justin, who are seeing it day in, day out, and what they're not seeing too, because a lot of this stuff is kind of in its theory phase in a lot of ways, so.
Yeah. I think the AI portion of technology, I think, is best suited for like the training aspect. When it comes to like troubleshooting and the actual maintenance portion, I'm not too sure of it yet, but I know in training it eventually, I've heard ramblings of these different avenues that AI can take you where you're, virtually pulling apart aircraft within goggles or on a computer. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It gives you the hands-on without, actually breaking into an aircraft or downing it for just training. So I think that's really cool.
You're that kid who built those 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles, aren't you?
No, I stick with Legos.
Hey.
Yeah, I love Legos.
Legos are good.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Legos are good.
My daughter's getting into them now, and I love it.
Oh, okay. Until you step on one in the middle of it.
I know, right?
Have you seen the memes? It's actually not really a meme. It's more of a video of the dads that are play soccer on Legos with no shoes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the training video for dads on the same video?
No.
The guy's walking on a treadmill and the kids at the front of the treadmill feeding Lego.
They have like the Lego Olympics where they're like throwing Legos at each other in the treadmill. It's hilarious.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
It's relatable. That's exactly right.
That's exactly it.
Nothing worse than getting up at 3 a.m. to find the restroom and finding the one Lego that's randomly thrown in the middle of the floor with no shoes on.
Yeah.
It's usually mine at this point.
Yeah. I told her to clean up. It was you, Dad. No. I'm going about all that. Like I said, we know what's coming. You mentioned earlier here, and this is a pretty kick-ass statement that you worked with SpaceX. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome. And I can't imagine what kind of systems, propulsion systems you had to work on back and then. And how would you even remotely relate that to your current position now at Riverside County?
Yeah, it was such a cool experience that I got to go through. So
can you share any of the details, or are we kind of high level?
Yeah, I can share some, and if there's something I'm not supposed to say, I'm sure I'll find out eventually, but
we'll get edited out.
Yeah, exactly.
The phone call starts really right cool. Now.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really cool when I was getting out of the Air Force. I was, what am I going to do? Right. I got this AMP with nothing but military experience. I don't know. I'm just, kind of throwing some applications out there from Florida back to California, because that's where I was stationed at the time. And I actually had a friend that I had grown up with hit me up, and he said, "Hey man, you're getting out of the military soon, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, I have a position working as a propulsion technician at SpaceX." And he was an engineer for that team at the time. And I was like, "Sign me up, man. What do I got to do?" So he sent me the referral email. I submitted an application. SpaceX flew me out from Florida to, Hawthorne, California, and put me in a hotel, gave me Uber credit, all this super cool stuff.
Nice.
At the interview. And before I left, they said, when can you start? And I said, well, I got, a couple months left in the military. I'll be on terminal leave soon. They said, we want you as soon as you possibly can. So let us know. So I got out, took about a week, to move and everything, and started at SpaceX while I was on terminal leave, which is really cool. And it was at such a cool pivotal point in the program. I mean, they were just proving all their systems. So while I was there, they did the in-flight abort test, which was, showing the proof that the capsule can eject from the booster, saving the astronauts if there was a malfunction in the booster, which was huge. That was basically when I started there. I got to help on that project. And then when I left and went to Riverside County was when we put the astronauts in space for the first time as a private industry rocket company, which was pretty insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is so cool.
That's monumental, my friend. Well done.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah.
Well done. That's so mind blowing. The fact that, hey, John, we're in the presence of greatness right here, dude. Like this guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think you're the first official guest of the show that actually has been a part of launching something into space.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually have a couple little certified pieces of fabric that say like, "Oh, this was flown in space on this mission," and I'm like, it's so cool. It kind of comes against me sometimes, because if I mess up on something at work or, make a little mistake here or there,
nice
people
job,
go, "Come on, Justin, it's not rocket scientist. It's not rocket science,
Yeah.
So what exactly did you work on when you were over there?
So I was part of the Draco propulsion team. So I built the engines that mounted to the capsule that navigated the capsule in the vacuum of space. So I didn't work on the booster engines, but I worked on the hypergolic engines that, maneuvered the Dragon capsule to and from the ISS and in and out of orbit and stuff. So super cool.
Jeez. Talk about technology.
No doubt.
What was the most challenging part for you, coming from the military and working on the systems that you were familiar with there, now going to these assuming, hyper advanced systems?
The Vertical MRO Podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
The hardest part was is a whole new system of knowledge. Just the names for all these parts, the technology that they're using, going from an aircraft mechanic to working on rockets is insane. But what SpaceX is really good at is the expectation of, we know you haven't worked on rockets before, let's teach you. And the teams there are excellent at, walking alongside you and get you spun up. So, in the matter of, 10 months while I was there, I went from not having any knowledge to building full rocket sets on my own, which is pretty awesome. And I'm doing everything from building, the wiring harnesses to doing high pressure testing, doing all the, you're looking at microscopes, inspecting all these parts for scarring and then as I was leaving, we were actually in the process of doing refurbs from engines that had already gone to space. So, taking them apart, looking at them, recertifying, and then reinstalling them on new aircraft. Or spacecraft. Sorry.
Did you see any weird characteristics of the components that came back from space?
Not necessarily. There was some cautions you had to take on a previously fired engine just because the fuels that they use are so toxic. So, I mean, when we're working on them, we're in full bunny suits, high ventilation, wearing all this gear for this stuff. So it's just when you're taking it apart, just making sure it's clean, non-toxic, looking for, stress fractures, heat fractures, that kind of stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary as you would think,
Yeah, I can imagine radiation, all kinds of unique things that you don't have to consider in the kind of aircraft that you're used to working on, and just a whole different category. One question I have, and sorry, Val, I keep going on these rabbit holes, but
no, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
I think of mechanics are very prideful in the toolbox they have, and those tools go with them everywhere. I think about SpaceX. Do they allow you to bring your own tool sets in, or what does that look like?
No, so SpaceX is kind of like the military. It's all in-house tool sets, mainly because of tool tracking, right? So you're working out of a toolbox that's established at SpaceX. And when you finish a job, you're doing your tool accountability to make sure that nothing got left behind on the product, right? So, and that's kind of the same stuff that you have in the military. You're checking out a toolbox, checking out tools. You're doing tool accountability, 90% of the day to make sure nothing got left in an engine or a hydraulic system that's going to cause problems down the road. So I was pretty keen to that already coming from the military. But SpaceX did have a lot of really cool proprietary tools. They 3D print a lot of their own tools in-house. So that's really cool. I mean, they're 3D printing metals, Inconel, stainless steel. Wow. It's pretty insane. Yeah.
That's cool.
Wow. See, my immature Marvel brain, comic brain, when you said if you're, was there any precautions when it came down? I'm thinking something of the symbiotic kind of a thing where Venom comes alive because you touch
Venom comes through,
right?
Yeah, I found a couple Infinity Stones, but we're not going to talk about
there it is. Hey, just snapped.
Yeah, exactly.
I am Thanos. I am inevitable.
Well, it's actually pretty funny. So when you go to the main headquarters at SpaceX Hawthorne, they Elon has a couple of really cool mementos from some different movies. So he's got a full Mark I Iron Man suit right there in the cafeteria. He's got a
how bad did you nerd out on that thing?
Oh, dude, it was insane. He's got the full. People are gonna hate me for this. I forget what the suit is from Fallout, but the night suit. He's got a full night suit from Fallout sitting over there. A couple different spacecraft hanging from the ceiling. It's pretty insane. It's pretty awesome.
That's
Someone
cool.
tells me that he got the keys to Area 51 better than anybody else, right?
So I'm sure. Dude. He's got keys to a lot of places we'll never even know about.
Good night of living.
I keep saying last question, but following up on the tool accountability thing, being that you had spent time in the military and then now with SpaceX, and then going to Riverside County, did some of the procedures and protocols that were in place as far as tool accountability and what you learned there, did any of that follow you to Riverside, and has that helped with what you're doing now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's once you've worked out of a toolkit that's had the foam cutout lining, it's impossible to go away from that. So even when I started at Riverside County, that was one of the first things I bought was a set of the foam layout tools, just because it's so easy to just look and be like, okay, everything is there. You know what I mean? That's how the military was. Everything was foam cut out. SpaceX, everything was foam cut out. So when I went to Riverside County, it was really hard. When I first started, I started a Husky box and a Craftsman set from Sears. So I was like, oh man, it's hard to keep track of everything. And I went on and ordered, a bigger box and foam tools. And it definitely is worth the investment in an environment like that. Because the last thing you want to do is an aircraft's rolling out for run-ups and you're like, oh, where's my wrench?
Yeah.
But,
you were like the kids running after the ice cream truck when the Snap-on truck rolled around. Weren't you?
Oh, dude, I'm running away from it, dude. I can't afford Snap-on. Yeah, I'm not too ashamed to admit that I have tools from Harbor Freight in my toolbox. So,
hey, I'm right there with the Mastercraft, dude. I'm right there with you. So there's no judgment on this show.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to make a custom tool, and I'm not going to cut up a Snap-on wrench for
there you go
$100. So
that's right.
I go to O'Reilly's and get my torque wrench, actual torque brand.
$6.99, best $7 you'll ever spend all day.
Yeah. spend $100 for a wrench, or you can buy it 17 times at Harbor Freight.
That's right.
In the same lifetime.
The first 16 pieces were test pieces.
Yes.
Of all the custom tools you have built, what's the most unique, and what'd you use it for?
Man, I think the best one I've ever used, and it's not even one that I built, is actually when I was in the military, I had an aux pump hydraulic handle break off on one of the cargo doors, and that's just my cheater bar on everything I use, and I love it because it's from a gunship. So
that's cool.
It has the sticker on it. It says like pumped to 3,000 psi, and I put it all on my wrenches and just use it as a leverage bar, and I love it. So
yeah.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsors, Safe Structure Designs. Safe Structure Designs specializes in custom aircraft maintenance stands and hangar equipment, boosting hangar efficiency by 50% and enhancing technician safety. With over 20 years of experience alongside real-world aircraft technicians, Safe develops industry-leading ergonomic safety solutions. Why not take advantage of Safe's free custom design process for your safety and efficiency needs and let them create your ideal solution? Visit www.safe-2.com to learn more.
Bell Training Academy proudly supports Vertical Helicasts. Experience hands-on technical training with dedicated maintenance aircraft to keep your skills sharp and your Bell aircraft operating at peak performance. Register for a technical course by September 30th and get $100 to Bell's gift shop. Visit bell.co/training. The Vertical MRO Podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine, the rotorcraft industry's #1 trusted multimedia resource. Visit Vertical Mag Media on YouTube to gain access to exclusive videos featuring operators in the field and more unique content from the pages of Vertical. Subscribe today to stay informed and inspired.
Hey everybody, this is Val here with the Vertical MRO. Thanks for listening to this part 1 of our series. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support does help and create more content like this. For those of you who want to continue the conversation, join us on our social media channels and platforms or visit our website over at verticalmag.com. We'd love to hear all your thoughts and questions about today's topics. Until next time, I'm Val. This is Vertical MRO. We'll be seeing you.
This has been the Vertical MRO Podcast. Join us next time for another edition of the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.